You ever notice how your brain suddenly gets loud the moment everything else goes quiet? You finally lie down, lights off, phone flipped face down like you're being responsible, and suddenly your mind goes, "Great, now that you're trapped, let's talk." Old conversations replay. Future worries audition for worst-case scenario of the year. That one embarrassing moment from 5 years ago kicks down the door like it never left. And you're just lying there thinking, why now? During the day, you seem fine. You function. You work. You reply to messages. You laugh at things that are objectively not that funny. From the outside, you look put together. But underneath, there's this constant low-grade mental noise, like your thoughts are pacing back and forth, waiting for their turn to be heard. Psychologists call this cognitive load. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are carrying way more of it than they realize, not because they're weak, not because they're broken, but because their minds are overloaded with thoughts that never got a proper ending. Your brain keeps reopening mental tabs it never got to close. And that's why psychologists, therapists, and neuroscientists keep circling back to one surprisingly simple habit that can rewire your brain faster than most people expect. It's not flashy. It doesn't trend well on social media. It doesn't come with a subscription fee. In fact, it's so basic that many people dismiss it entirely, or try it once, feel awkward, and stop right before the real change starts. That habit is writing things down, not for productivity, not for aesthetics, not to become someone who owns 7 notebooks and uses words like intentional, but for mental regulation. Because your brain was never designed to be a storage unit. It's designed to be a processor. When you try to hold everything inside emotions, worries, decisions, identities, unfinished conversations, the system clogs. Writing is how the brain clears its cache. And depending on how you write, very different psychological changes begin to happen. That's the part most people miss. Journaling isn't one thing. It's several different tools that rewire different parts of the mind. Let's slow this down and look at the patterns. There's the first type, the emotional pressure cooker. This person doesn't journal consistently. They journal when they're about to snap. Late at night, after a long day, after one tiny comment somehow breaks the dam. They sit down and dump everything out. No structure, no filter, complaints, resentment, jealousy, sadness, half-formed thoughts that contradict each other on the same page. It's messy, repetitive, sometimes dramatic, sometimes embarrassing. And yet, afterward, something shifts. The chest feels lighter. The jaw unclenches. The urge to send that risky text suddenly disappears. This isn't coincidence. When emotions stay trapped inside, the brain treats them as unresolved threats. The amygdala, your threat detection system, stays activated. Stress hormones stay elevated. Your body thinks something is still happening. But the moment you put emotions into words, the brain recruits higher-order regions involved in regulation and meaning. You're moving activity from survival mode into processing mode. That's why psychologists say, name it to tame it. You're not erasing the emotion, you're completing it. Over time, people who write this way become less reactive, not numb, not detached, just harder to hijack. They still feel deeply, but feelings stop running the entire show. Maybe that's you. Or maybe it's the person you know who always seems calmer after just getting it out. Then there's another profile, the mental chess player. This person writes when they're stuck. A decision, a pattern, a situation that keeps repeating in different disguises. They don't pour emotion onto the page. They interrogate it. They ask uncomfortable questions. Why did that bother me so much? What am I actually afraid of here? What keeps showing up in different forms? Psychologically, this strengthens metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. And this is a game changer. People with strong metacognition don't experience fewer emotions. They just don't confuse emotions with facts. Over time, their brain builds stronger connections between emotional centers and logical reasoning. That's why these people often seem calm in moments that would overwhelm others. Their calm isn't personality. It's trained awareness. They've practiced clarity on paper long before life demanded it in real time. Then there's another type, quieter, almost accidental. They don't call themselves journalers. They just like capturing moments. A sentence someone said that lingered. A feeling that didn't have a name yet. A detail they don't want to forget. This strengthens autobiographical memory, the system that helps your brain create a coherent life story. In simple terms, it helps you feel like the same person across time. Without this, life can feel fragmented. Days blur together. Years disappear. People wake up one day thinking, how did I get here? But people who record moments tend to feel grounded, even during change. Their brain has context, proof, continuity. And then there's the most misunderstood type, the identity writer. This person isn't focused on the past as much as the future. Not affirmations, not manifesting fantasies. Honest observation. They write things like, I notice I feel drained here. I'm tired of explaining myself. I don't want to keep living like this. Neuroscience shows that imagining and articulating a future self activates the same neural networks as lived experience. The brain starts rehearsing change before it happens. Old patterns weaken through disuse. New ones strengthen quietly. That's why people who journal this way often seem to change suddenly. They leave jobs, shift values, end relationships. But from the inside, nothing was sudden. The decision was practiced dozens of times on paper before it ever showed up in real life. What looks impulsive is usually deeply rehearsed. And here's the part most people miss. Journaling doesn't make you more emotional. It makes you less controlled by emotion. It doesn't trap you in your head. It gives your thoughts somewhere to land. Your brain doesn't care about grammar. It doesn't care about pretty sentences. It cares about clarity. 5 minutes of honest writing can rewire more than an hour of forced positivity. Because the brain rewires through attention. Whatever you repeatedly notice, name, and reflect on grows stronger. Whatever stays vague and unspoken controls you quietly from the background. So if you've tried journaling before and stopped, it probably wasn't because it didn't work. It was because you hadn't found the version that matches how your mind works. Some people need to vent. Some need to analyze. Some need to remember. Some need to become. And here's the real question, not should you journal, but why hasn't your mind had a place to land yet? If you sat down tonight, no rules, no expectations, what thought would finally stop looping? What pattern would become obvious once it was written out? What version of you might start forming simply because you paid attention? Sit with that. And if this video made you pause, reflect, or recognize yourself a little too clearly, go ahead and like it. That small action tells the algorithm something, but more importantly, it tells you that this mattered. And if you want more psychology like this, the subtle habits, the invisible patterns, the everyday behaviors that quietly rewire who we become, subscribe to the channel. Not because you have to, but because curiosity like this usually means you're already changing, whether you've written it down yet or not. So tell me, which type did you see yourself in? And what's the first thing your brain is finally ready to let go of once it has somewhere to put it?